Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I've loved the Ramayan since I was young. There was always something about the story, characters, and lessons that felt compelling and highly watchable. Like many of you, I grew up watching Ramanand and Sagar's 1987 show that captivated the world. There are so many anecdotes from that time period describing how Indians stopped whatever they were doing to watch each episode. In one paper it said, "Bazaars were deserted, weddings and funerals delayed, and buses and trains stopped during the broadcast of the Ramayan on Sunday mornings." So this got me thinking, why did this particular show captivate so many? And why does the Ramayan keep getting adapted for television and film every few years? In this video, I'll discuss why I believe the Ramayan is so integral to Indian culture and why it continues to be adapted for the screen. I'll discuss 3 versions of the Ramayan that received high praise and I believe added to the Indian conversation. Also, I will make a part 2 to this series focused specifically on the romance between Sri Ram and Sita, because I have a lot of thoughts and I couldn't fit them all in this video. The Ramayan, of course, is an epic tale written by the sage Valmiki in the 4th or 5th century BCE in Sanskrit. Subsequently, the poet Saint Tulsidas wrote his own version of the Ramayan in the 16th century CE in the language Awadhi. The latter version, called the Ramcharitmanas, is popular among Indians, and it's easy to see why. While Valmiki's version uses older language and takes a lot of concentration to understand, Tulsidas's version reads somewhat like a novel. It's much easier to follow, the language is quite colorful, and it's suffused with devotion, which I'm sure helps many readers connect with the characters on a deeper level. Also, Tulsidas incorporates certain plot-related changes to Valmiki's version, which I believe makes the story more palatable in those moments. I have to mention how the practice of adapting Valmiki's original text is not limited to Tulsidas. The story has been translated into many Indic languages, and the plot altered to suit different audiences. I'll link a few versions of the Ramayan, including an abridged version in my description if you're interested in reading them. While Hindus tend to take ownership of the Ramayan and everything about it, the story has long appealed to people of other faiths, such as Muslims and Buddhists. This is evidenced by the fact that long before television was invented, the Ramayan has been translated into non-Indic languages, inspired international paintings, and performed on stage all over the world, such as in Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, the Philippines, and China. So, clearly, there's something about the Ramayan that is universal. In India, of course, the Ramayan has long been performed on stage, especially during national festivals celebrating specific events that occur in the Ramayan itself, like Sri Ram's birthday on Ram Navami, Hanumanji's birthday on Hanuman Jayanti, Ravan's death on Dashera, and Sri Ram's return to Ayodhya on Diwali. Also, Indians have a tradition of traveling to holy sites mentioned in the Ramayan like Ayodhya or Chitrakoot to obtain blessings. But why do so many of us love the Ramayan? I believe there are a few reasons. 1. Everyone knows the story. Even Indians who don't consider themselves spiritual or religious probably know what happens in the story, either because they learned it at a young age or because they get reminded during annual festivals. Therefore, when people watch the Ramayan on stage or on screen, they aren't looking to be surprised. They know the story very well. Instead, they might want to be comforted by its familiarity, and we'll get to that later. 2. The characters themselves are divine. I believe all of us perceive Sri Ram, Sita, and Lakshman to be ideal, lovable people, but some of us go a step further to say that they are embodiments of God. In any case, these main characters serve as role models who we look up to as guides for correct behavior, particularly in the context of relationships. The Ramayan is chock full of lessons related to how to be an ideal son or daughter, brother or sister, friend, and spouse. While our family or social lives might never be as dramatic as those in the Ramayan, we can emulate how these characters handle difficult situations in our lives. 3. Its fundamental message is simple. Good triumphs over evil. Our titular characters like Sri Ram, Sita, Lakshman, and Hanuman epitomize righteousness and virtue. They all share a commitment to doing the right thing, even when it's challenging. Over the course of their journey, they all face high-stakes situations related to physical hardship, separation, sacrifice, forgiveness, diplomacy, and war. While their lives never get easier, they all stick to their principles, and it pays off. Good does triumph over evil in the end, and to see this victory play out feels satisfying and validating. It gives us permission to follow all of the teachings in the story. 4. The story itself is intriguing. I believe that the final reason why many people love the Ramayan is that it's a great story. It's beautiful, suspenseful, funny, heartbreaking, and uplifting all at once. There's so much intrigue in it, and I think that it appeals to us for different reasons. This story has it all: drama, politics, action, and romance. I'm definitely partial to the romance angle, if I'm being honest. And I will make a part 2 of this series all about that, so stay tuned. When Indians began creating films for the first time, they started with some of their most beloved mythological stories. The first reported Indian film was Raja Harishchandra in 1913. According to one paper, the oldest surviving sound film in India was The King of Ayodhya in 1932, which was also about Harishchandra. These films opened the door to the popular Piety movement, which was an effort to democratize the experience of devotion using on-screen mythological media. Indians were already used to seeing mythological stories acted out on stage, narrated during musical performances, or reading these stories in books or comic books. But seeing actors portray beloved characters like Sri Ram, Sita, Lakshman, and Hanuman on screen, where cameras could zoom in on their expressions and music played in the background, added layers to Indians' viewing experience. I believe this combination of elements enabled viewers to better immerse themselves in the story and surrender to the feeling that they were really seeing God and hearing His words. One of the earliest attempts to show the Ramayana on screen was in the 1918 serial Ram Vanvas. Ramanand Sagar's hit show was released in 1987, followed by the series Jai Hanuman in 1997, which Ramanand Sagar also directed. Ramanand Sagar's production company released another version in 2008, then another in 2012, and the Triangle Film Company released the show Siye Ke Ram in 2015. This, of course, is not an exhaustive list, as there have been films made in non-Hindi languages, like Sita Swayamvar in Telugu, shows that focus on specific sections of the Ramayana, like Ram Siya Ke Love Kush in 2019, and even animated versions of the Ramayana. To summarize, every few years another adaptation is released in India. Why is that? To help us answer this question, let's delve deeper into some of the most successful adaptations. When Ramanand Sagar pitched the Ramayan serial to the national network Doordarshan, he said, "The Ramayana is not only a great epic of Himalayan dimensions, it is also a repository of our social and moral values. The real challenge lies in seeing this immortal epic with the eyes of a modern man and relating its message to the spiritual and emotional needs of our age." This, to me, indicates what Sagar aimed to accomplish, and I think it's safe to say that he did that. Indians would stop whatever they were doing and huddle around their TV sets to watch together. Some of them would even perform a small puja or light incense before it started. It was like a sacred event to them. The 1987 show was arguably the first blockbuster TV serial in India, in that the nation came to a standstill between 9 and 10 a.m. on Sundays for almost 2 years. The show aired from January 1987 to July 1988 once a week in India and other countries with large Indian populations, such as Mauritius, Britain, the West Indies, and Canada. Each episode was 30 minutes long, and there were 78 episodes in total, not including the follow-on series Love Kush, which had about 40 episodes. According to sociological research, watching television became, for many, a religious act, in which viewers spontaneously directed their personal devotion toward the actors playing the main characters. In other words, the show augmented and supplemented traditional forms of devotional life through the concept of darshan. As you might remember from the Gazes video, darshan refers to divine vision or seeing one's chosen deity and being seen by them. In the same way, viewers felt like by seeing living, breathing versions of their favorite characters, they were being seen by them too. Some people said, "Ram, Sita, and Lakshman looked exactly as I imagined them. Watching the Ramayana was like getting a darshan of God." I believe that the 1987 show enhanced viewers' understanding of Hindu philosophy and teachings. Ramanand Sagar himself was a devotee of Sri Ram and wanted to make Sri Ram's teachings more accessible to modern people. Visual entertainment served as the perfect medium. Moreover, I think another reason why viewers received the 1987 show so well was the beauty of its writing and music. Sagar Arts borrowed heavily from Tulsidasa's Ramayan, which, as I mentioned, is highly poetic and devotional. Putting Tulsidasa's words to music likely elevated their effect and helped viewers revel in their beauty, thereby creating the right bhav or feeling in people. I've seen the 1987 show more times than I can remember. I feel like I learn more every time I see it, and I love the way the actors work together. I still get emotional at certain points because the acting is so good. This show is truly the benchmark against which I compare all subsequent versions of the Ramayan. Speaking of which, after Sagar Arts concluded their original Ramayan and Love Kush serials, several other Hindi adaptations emerged. The success of the 1987 and 88 shows might have motivated creators to build off that momentum and deliver their own takes on this classic story. While no adaptation has ever come close to creating a similar level of hype to the 1987 show, they have almost always received positive feedback from audiences. In the early 2000s, Raman and Sagar's sons collaborated on another serial titled Ramayan under the Sagar Arts banner. This 300-plus episode series aired 4 days a week, and each episode was about 20 minutes long. The show featured many young, fresh actors at the start of their careers. Similar to its 1987 predecessor, the 2008 show also borrowed from Tulsidasa's Ramayan in terms of its lyrical and emotional tone and certain plot choices. Also, because the show aired every day and had more episodes, creators could flesh out characters' psychologies, relationships, and exhibit vignettes that the 1987 show didn't have time for. I believe that this show also deserves high praise. In many ways, it feels like a contemporary version of the 1987 show, in that it's focused on showing the Ramayan from start to finish and exhibiting Sri Ram and Sita's perfection through example. The added scenes that show how Sri Ram interacts with everyone in his life and overcomes various dangers feel quite natural. And because the show has more episodes, it has a more relaxed pace. Viewers feel like they can take a breath and, in a relaxed way, learn from each episode. Moreover, because these characters are younger than those in the 1987 show, the 2008 show does feel like it's directed toward younger viewers, suggesting that creators wanted to make the Ramayan relevant and interesting for millennials. Sri Ram and Sita feel more personable in this show, almost as if they represent our older brother and sister, whereas the actors in the 1987 show feel more like parental figures. I also have to praise the visual effects and aesthetics of the show. The costumes and color schemes are really lovely. The lighting is a little dim, to be honest, which makes it hard to see, but it's still beautiful. Also, the music is really pretty and slow, which lends itself to the measured pace of the show. Overall, I have only good things to say about it. If you haven't seen this show, I highly recommend it, and I will talk more about it in part 2. One of the most recent adaptations that I've seen was Siya Ke Ram, which aired from 2015 to 2018 on Star Plus. This 300-plus series aired 5 days a week, and each episode was 20 minutes long. Creators also took advantage of this length to fully flesh out our main characters and their dynamics. For instance, this show takes creative liberty to show Sri Ram and Sita's childhood in more depth, and events prior to their marriage, exile, and separation. Sri Ram and Sita's relationship appears to be the hub of the show, in that everything orbits around it. Also, the creators added a lot more scenes overall that don't appear in either Valmiki or Tulsidasa's Ramayan. On the positive side, I love the fact that the creators wanted to give Sita's story more depth. She is a fascinating character. But I also feel like the way the creators approached the script took away from its teaching value. This show definitely feels much more like a commercial product, in that it has a lot of entertaining elements, like relatable characters and subplots that aren't materially relevant to the Ramayan, but elongate the show and humanize characters. While I love it when creators are brave enough to take creative liberty with scriptural texts, I felt like the writing for this show was a little too commercial for me. Again, I have more to say about this show, but I'm saving those thoughts for part 2. Now that we've discussed the sociological context of the Ramayan and a few on-screen adaptations, it might now be clearer as to why people love to see new adaptations of the story on television or in films. It isn't because we grow tired of older versions, but rather we seek to refresh our understanding of the Ramayan again and again. It's a dense scripture, and there's always more to learn from it. So, in other words, I believe that the reason people love and demand on-screen adaptations of this beloved scripture is because watching the Ramayan on screen is an easy spiritual practice. During those 20 to 30 minutes, people are completely focused on God. According to Narad's Bhakti Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Yoga is the easiest of the 4 types. Seeing one's chosen deity, remembering their virtues, extolling their beauty, and singing their name are simple ways of getting in touch with the heart. As we discussed in the beginning, we all know what happens in the Ramayan. But we watch it again and again so we can repeat God's name and remember the story's lessons. The saint Kabir emphasizes the importance of repetition and remembrance when he says, "The good qualities of my Lord are beyond counting. Those who want to solve the riddle will know all if they repeat Ram." At one point in his earlier years, Tulsidas was infatuated with his wife. One day she said, "If you directed even a fraction of this love toward Sri Ram, you would be enlightened." And that's exactly what he did. From then on, Tulsidas devoted his life to the Lord. He once said, "Keep saying God's sacred name and lose yourself in Him. All the wrong thoughts will immediately leave you." Ram is number 1. Everything else is nothing. Pledge yourself to Him, and He will bless you with His grace. So if we can devote even a fraction of our time to thinking about God, it will bear fruit. The Saint Ram Das said, "Give up your fear of the world. Lord Ram protects you. He will protect you, even though death is after you." For many of us, the Ramayan will always be a part of our lives. It's a beautiful story with clear lessons related to what it means to be good and kind and how to be your best self. On-screen adaptations allow us to focus on the supreme truth for a little while, and we need that. We're all so busy with our work and relationships that it can be hard to see the big picture. We can forget what it's like to feel devotion and meditate on the inner self. The Ramayana offers a safe place to direct our devotion and cultivate true understanding. And if I've learned one thing about watching many 30-minute episodes of the Ramayana back to back over the years, it's that some effort is better than none.